Okay, we're good. Yeah. Okay, this meeting will come to order. Everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The borough has complied with 48-hour notice provisions of the Sunshine Law by giving written advance notice of at least 48 hours to 2 local newspapers stating the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting. Copies of this notice were posted in the Borough Hall and filed with the Borough Clerk.
Okay, public comment on the agenda.
So just a reminder, public comment is unlike our commissioner meeting. Public comment for working meetings is only at the beginning. So this is your moment for, unless your staff has brought up for a specific item. So yeah, sir. So leave name and address for the record.
Tom Elgin, 530 Haddon. Just curious as to the time frame of these working sessions at 11:30 during the week time. Typically, the public is working at that time. And I was just curious as to why this decision was made for this time.
So we're trying to mold this as more like a staff meeting as well. So as you see the agenda topics that we are going to ask our zoning officer to give her expertise and her opinion. There's things for communications that we'll have Lindsay Ferguson, and this is staff that is not paid to come in after hours. So we didn't want to add another nighttime meeting so that we can have all our staff available if we need to ask and really do the work of building what's going to come on the agenda for the commissioners meetings.
So your targeted audience isn't really being addressed then?
It's available on Zoom and it's recorded, so you can watch it later and see what's happening. Yeah.
John Kimball, 25 East Main Terrace. I have some questions and comments, but they're not important like the other things that have to be dealt with today. Is it possible to comment and ask those questions after you've gone through the list all the way to Shade Tree?
I prefer, we're going to keep public comment at the beginning.
And I'll hold my comments for that.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Emma Rose, 10 Crestmont. I understand that is the sort of run of show, but just from a contextual standpoint, I feel like coming and spending the time, having questions like you would if you were at a meeting at work might happen after some statements are made or some context is shared. So I don't know if it's like a bigger adaptation that would need to happen to be more collaborative and inclusive, but I think it would be more valuable, and I didn't know going into it that I would need to come prepared with something ahead of time so that I could engage. And so that's just, I feel like something to work on as we go forward, whether it's specific things that are published and circulated next to the Zoom link so that I can kind of do the read up before you get here. So I would love to participate in this as much as possible, but it's a little awkward to kind of like collect my thoughts within 2 seconds of walking through.
Understood. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh.
First reading of ordinance 1829, amending, revising, and supplementing chapter 85 entitled Affordable Housing of the Borough Code.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yes, so the reason that we're doing this now as opposed to our March 2nd commissioners meeting is that there are state and court deadlines for affordable housing. So in order to be able to adopt a resolution, adopt the ordinance, it has to have a first reading and a second reading. It needs to be adopted by March 15th. So as opposed to having a special meeting, which is what we would have done before the existence of working meetings. We're introducing it now so that we can have public comment on it at our March 2nd commissioners meeting. And this affordable housing is what we've been working on since June with our planner and with the courts and with Fair Share Housing. That's everyone coming to the same page as to how the Borough of Concord is going to meet their affordable housing obligation. So that.
Okay. Commissioner Mallon,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson Riley,
Yes.
Mayor Solana Ward.
Yes.
We have a resolution adopting the 2026 working session schedule.
Yes.
Yes.
And this hopefully will have, these are the times going forward, and yet they are all 11:30, but at least you'll have them ahead of time. And again, it will all be recorded and will be on the Borough website after the fact. And it is new.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Authorizing contract with FNS LLC for ambulance billing services.
I have a question about this because I haven't seen correspondence. So, I spoke to the owner, and what we're gonna wind up doing, we're gonna keep the same contract as last year, we enter into a new one. The question of the 90-day notice termination period, they need 90 days simply to collect billables that have already been billed, but they're willing to give us a 30-day cancellation period to stop services going forward. So I think that accomplishes both the borough's needs and the billing. So, we're gonna revise that language and then should be able to sign it within the next couple of weeks.
Great, so that. Thank you. Okay.
We haven't voted yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner Mallon,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson Riley.
Yes.
Mayor Solana Ward.
Yes.
And then we have a resolution authorizing to advertise for a request for qualifications for a consultant on fire EMT services.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm abstaining.
And then we have discussion items.
So the first item on our discussion list is Scottish Rite. I wanted to get an update on where we were with the application for the grant. I know that's been delayed a couple of times, and we replied on the second round, and if we had any updates as to when, that's. Sorry,
Yes, I understand they have not announced phase 2.
they have not announced phase 2.
And I can tell you, they haven't announced phase 1.
They have not
Oh,
one
wow.
either.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they're still holding. So
The
this
CAFE
is a
grant.
CAFE grant, this is a CAFE grant, it's a state grant where we've been 5-6
I
million.
think it's about
For-
minimum 5.
Yeah, it's a big number, for renovations to Scottish Rite. We're in the second round, we applied, they have an award, I'm working in a town where we're in the first round. Hasn't been formally announced yet, so they haven't got, it's a little delayed.
Are we, do we know if with the new administration, the funds are still secured, or it's kind of all up in the
So
air?
far, so good. So far, so good.
So we put in the money in order to prepare the grant. We're waiting to hear from first round, and then there's the
We
second.
applied in the second round. We didn't have it, we didn't have everything in time for the deadline for the first round.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a massive application,
It's very-
and they're appraisal done, you need all kinds of stuff.
Money that-
right,
Which is why all that was required. Okay.
right. Right, so we have, but there's still, even with with the first round of applicants, there's still a lot of tax credit money available for later rounds. The early ones are using up a big portion.
Okay.
So there's still reasonable hope.
And the status update as to how the right is doing on some of their bookkeeping and getting things in order. What's the latest on all of that?
The 5 audits,
Right?
yesterday or this morning. So we have 20 through 24, that'll give us a complete picture. And then we're we're soliciting like a short-term proposal from Board Scott, the board auditor, to go in and do financial management and make some recommendations. So we're really just having the picture yesterday, I figured out.
Right,
A lot of people
Yeah.
to get, all the documents together, but we haven't, so we can now take them, they've all been passed along to the county folks.
are there next, it sounds like board docs can be the next steps.
Potentially, we'll see what their proposal is, like I said, a minimum of 3 months, but maybe more, as we figure out how long it is.
Does the county have something else that they need from us other than these docs?
I mean, I just said it, and I was like, here's what we got today, Merry Christmas, let me know if you need anything else.
Anything else? No.
We've got the documentation out, we can have more discussions.
And, sorry, I haven't been part of this. What's the audit about?
They were, they did not have an audit from 25, from 20 to current.
Okay,
So they had to do a lot of legwork to get the paperwork together and then prepare the audits and financial statements so that, get a picture of like finances, what should be done.
this is connected to the grant or no?
Yeah, totally separate.
Totally separate.
Okay.
Just for running it.
We just break, we need to clear
Yeah,
financial picture.
it's been rotten, so it's just like trying to
Okay,
get things in order.
But we got them this morning and they last night.
Just to let them get
Right, and
anything else on the right? Oh, did they,
Go to the shows.
did they finally get their, everything fixed with their sprinkler system and the leak that happened?
Yeah, within 24 hours, they were able to get the pipes repaired, put the sprinkler system and go back to normal operations. And my understanding is that the heat is back up and running there.
There's larger issues, there's other issues still gonna be addressed with through the counties who work, the county spent a lot of money last year. Like $3-4 million, right, on air conditioning and kind of our HVAC system, and 24, I guess. And so there's some issues with the heating system that we have a pipe break, but that's not part of the issue. There's larger issues that are being addressed with the county and the vendor, the installer of it, to try to make sure the heats, the furnace and everything is running properly.
And the county runs lead on that? Because
they were the ones that coordinated all the construction, so we're going through them to have them go back to the guy that came in with their money. Yeah,
so why did the county pay for it?
they had infrastructure money from like the Biden infrastructure money, they had a lot of money left, so he made application for it, and was it how much was it, 6 million? We got a grant of 5-6 million, and they spent it on air conditioning, upgrading the heating, a bunch of improvements to the building. Yeah, so it was free money. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Budget issue, questions?
Budget, yes. I brought up budget. I wanted to talk about fire department budgets.
Okay.
So the last version of the budget. That our CFO Betty Jo sent around included 2 firefighters. And I wanted to discuss this with the chief as well, to understand where that number came.
Well, I believe that what is in, this is my understanding, what is in the budget was that last year, pursuant to the agreement with the union at the end of 24, where we bumped up salaries for the membership, we also had agreement that we would be adding a firefighter EMT every year for the next 3 years. And in order to accommodate the number of calls that there were. And so it was budgeted for 25. And my understanding is Betty Jo's budgeted the second for 26. And when you had said like we should take that out, and I think that like because we're in a position here where we're looking at what's gonna happen within the fire department, we should hold that money. Not saying that that's what it's gonna be used for, but if you remove it and take it out, then it limits your options with respect to what might come out about any study and how you restructure. Okay, that's all, simply hold.
I have a copy of the fire department's request from 26. It
Chief Joyce, can you confirm that you did not ask for two fire extinguishers?
In my budget request for 2026, I requested the information of the EMS division underneath the department. My understanding that the adding one person per year for 3 years was removed from contract negotiations and handled between myself and the VA.
Okay, well, that was not my understanding, and I've got emails that say that, but the addition of the money in here, like, I didn't put this in the budget, 25 and 26.
Yeah.
Betty Jo I asked Betty Jo after you raised the question, and Betty Jo said she put it in because that was her understanding of what was done out of the end of contract negotiations. And she had that one in, and she was adding the second one in, and that's what she was doing, okay? So, talk to Betty Jo about why it's in
I
there.
did talk to Betty Jo yesterday.
Okay.
And as a director of public safety, I also reached out to the chief to say, was this what was in your budget request? And the answer is no. So let's
So
discuss.
did Betty Jo tell you why she put that was, to
Yes.
confirm what I just said?
Yes.
Okay,
But we weren't part of that discussion, so I wanted to have it now to discuss the implications so that we can approve the budget as a governing body.
okay, well, I have a lot more questions about the budget. We were gonna have a budget workshop last week that got put, canceled because of concerns about open public meetings. But like, yeah, I got a whole bunch of questions about the budget.
Sure, do you want to?
We should set up I can raise some of them, but, it'd be great to have our CFO here for that, because she's the one that knows what came where. My concerns on the overall budget are things like, it's really, really tight. It is relying on, $1.4 million sale of the Ocean First building is being plugged in as a revenue, which is a very risky thing to do, because we're not selling that building again in 27. When you take a one-time revenue and use it to support the budget, it leaves you hanging in the next year, okay? Unless there's some plan about where we're getting another $1.7 million in revenue.
To be clear, we did use over $3 million from our surplus in the 25 budget.
We did. 25's budget was tight because the schools were raising taxes by $4.5 million. And so we announced to the public that we were not going to increase the municipal rate. That was not exactly how we expected it to be when we settled contracts at the end of 24 and put big bumps in for police and fire. Okay, so it made it extra difficult. So it is with that being the status of where things were. What's going on in this budget is we're plugging in one-time revenues. It's still a $100 tax increase for the average home, but we're plugging in one-time revenues that give me, like, you just don't do that. Like, you just don't do that. Because in 27, it leaves a $1.4 million hole that you have to make up somehow.
So in 25, we used 3.2, I believe, $3.2 million of our surplus to round out our budget. This year, we're only using, I believe, $700,000 from our surplus, with as well the 1.4. So there you are at 2.1, which is still almost $1 million less.
Yeah,
pulled
I
out
don't
of
think
the
those surplus numbers are exactly right.
They are.
Which would be really, okay. It'd be great that we do like a budget workshop and go over it, okay?
I think
Because
it's
there's no money in the budget for any kind of road work or anything at all. There's no infrastructure work. There's just a lot of things that we should
There is,
go over.
there is infrastructure work in this budget. It's not a ton, but there is infrastructure investment. And there are capital improvements in this budget.
There's capital improvements, there's no roads. Like there's a line item in there for moving the borough offices. For $250,000. Like
That's a
moving the borough
line,
offices.
that's a line item that has been in between either fixing up borough halls, we're gonna stay, or to use in one capacity, because of what I've been told is that if we're going to stay in borough hall, there's some investments that need to be made in the building. That's what the CFO and the borough administrator have been telling me since day one.
So we should do a meeting and focus on, have a CFO, The other one that pops in my head is, the latest draft that Betty Jo sent around on Monday has that we're gonna pay the schools $230,000. That's been put into the budget. That number is roughly what the pilot share payment was previously.
22.5, the exact number of the pilot share that's been in the budget for the last 9 years.
It wasn't in it last year.
It was in 25.
And it wasn't 25 because the school district was raising taxes $4.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and told us they weren't gonna need that money.
And
Okay,
then
so
they
has-
publicly came to a school board meeting and told everyone that this is the money that has been set aside from the Parkview pilot, the 222.5, and it's been in all the budgets. It wasn't in 25, understandably, because of taxes that got raised. And so it's getting put back into the 26 budget as it is in for 24 and before.
Mayor, with all due respect, you're mixing up, there were a whole lot of meetings during the beginning of 25, okay? And yet there were all kinds of proposals being made about trying to fill in what the schools told us was, a door-stop gap, financial gap, okay? Start all kinds of meetings. And those meetings, I did make statements saying, we'll do this, we'll fill in this, we'll do this. And then the law changed and they were allowed to increase their tax levy by $4.5 million. And then they sent us emails saying, hey, we're gonna go all the way to 4.5 mil, okay? We're not gonna need that help. All right, and that's why in 25's budget, there's not the 222, that money's not in there because they raised taxes 4.5.
I'm not-
So out of the blue now, Monday, 2 days ago, we're putting back into the budget, we're gonna pay the schools 222 as though there had not been a 4.5 million increase. And I'm just like, I have questions about that, especially when we've got a budget that's it's risky. It's risky the way we're doing, okay? It's risky. And I think those are like, you gotta, and nobody knows. Nobody knows about it.
This is why we're talking about it now.
I got it Monday, well, with all due respect, I got it Monday, that it's been put in, that's it. So you've had conversations.
Right, because I'm the head of, that's my commissioner title, to speak with the CFO. So my question is, I spent an insane amount of time during the campaign reading all of the public budgets because I wanted to understand where our money went. And every budget that's available online has had that 222.5, and it was my understanding from all the publicly available information that Parkview was a gigantic, the amount of money the schools do not get because Parkview is on a pilot is sizable. Like, this is not making pilots the bad guy. They've done great investments in some amazing things for those apartments to make them a place that is livable and safe again. But the understanding and the way that it was explained to me and what I've seen is that 222.5 was a nod to be like, yes, we understand that because the pilot revenue from Parkview is coming directly to the borough, that means schools are not getting it cut. And this is a nod in some way from the borough to address that and give the schools a chunk of that pilot. That was what I understood that 222.5 to be, that has been in the budget for the last 9 years, except for 25, for understandable reasons.
Right.
So it went back in for 26.
But see, I gotcha. I don't see what's changed between 25 and 26. Because this year, they're collecting an extra $4.5 million in taxes, just like they did last year. Okay? And what we've just gone over is last year, because of that increase, the borough did no increase. Even though we had done some major investments in, for the most part, salaries for uniforms. Okay? And we made that investment, we cut everything and did bare bones so that residents would not have an extra tax burden, okay? So with that being the case, when they're getting the extra 4.5 million and taxing folks again for it, why would we voluntarily pay them another $230,000 and act as though that 4.5 million increase never happened.
It's not acting like the $4.5 million increase didn't happen, but what doesn't change is the fact that if Parkview were not a pilot, the school would be receiving more revenue.
No, they would receive no more revenue, not one nickel more. Let me go through my little pilot stick, okay? It is this, the school district adopts
Okay,
a
I
budget.
apologize, I
They
take that
get
back.
no more money, nothing. If it was fully taxed,
The
they
taxpayers
would get the same amount,
would pay.
correct?
Individual, I misspoke.
Individual
The owners
taxpayers,
would be paying less into the school levy because Parkview would be paying a higher,
yeah,
so they wouldn't feel it as much. So
but now it's upside down. Now they've increased it 4.5 million, okay? They've increased it 4.5 million, and
But didn't
they
you
want
agree-
us to tax for the 230. What's that?
Didn't you agree to give it?
No, not once the 4.5 million came through, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
so you're,
Okay, so any correspondence I have on that is not true.
I'd love to see what it is, because there were a million, listen, I can pull emails where it was, they wanted us to write them a check for 3
All
million.
right, I
There
would
are
like,
other things. We should have a budget workshop.
I would like that. I
And
think-
this decision to pay this money to the school should not be just getting dropped in 2 days before.
I think what I would like to say is this. Everyone is, I'm a mom of 3 kids. Everyone's thinking about their budgets. It's important to think about taxes. To go back to the fire item for a moment, since that's where I wanted to discuss this today. What your suggestion is to put in 2 firefighters, even though it wasn't requested, and raise.
No, Listen, I didn't put it in. Betty Jo put it in. Betty Jo put it in. I had nothing to do with putting it in.
Okay.
Didn't know until you asked, okay?
yes, but that was you, it was you, the VA saying it should be 2 because.
The director of public safety and the fire department involved.
At our budget meeting, it should be.
Where was I?
And that's the conversation in August with Chief Joyce, and that was your original proposal, was to add, it was supposed to be 1 per year.
anything.
Right, well, this budget is going back to the original proposal from like August or September, I can't remember which version, which was before the other route, which was struck down. It was to add 1 officer, and then you say, we can hurry this up and add 2 officers, and that was the price. So what Betty Jo said is this budget was taking the fire and EMS budget and going back to status quo. That's how she described it.
Here, I'd like you to finish the sentence. Thank you. It's really important for us to consider taxpayers and what we are taking, whoever puts it in the budget. I would like us to discuss now, and I agree with you, I would love to have a budget workshop that's open to the public so people can see where their money's going. It's bigger than this discussion now. I'm happy to add a special meeting, whatever we need to do. On fire, I would like to determine now, because this is an important topic that continues to be, discussed in the communities. Chief Joyce, do you want 2 firefighters in the budget?
So at this point now, with the approval of the consultant, I would say I would hold off on that, because again, like in the previous proposal, 1 person per year for 3 years, there's no way to make that work with the system, with the platoon system, and the same with 2. Like, that would make 2 platoons heavy, 1 still light. And again, just adding 2 people, it doesn't resolve the issue.
So a proposal would be to remove the 2 firefighters. Well, and I discussed this with Betty Jo yesterday, because I think I know what you're gonna say. Well, it keeps money in there, but we don't know what we're gonna do. But I think we want to stick to the public process that we've agreed on. Let it, remove the line item, if that's what you're saying, chief. Have the consultant,
So what if the consultant comes back and says, add certain number of certain number of fire officers?
Well, then
Okay.
that'll be the.
They come- No, well, no, it won't happen until the 1st of the year.
Correct.
Do you,
But what
I mean, do you want us to take this out and not have any contingency in the event we get a report back that says we're gonna add some personnel and we're able to make it work? You'll hold off until January 1 of 26, 27 for
I'm
us to
not
do it?
saying that.
Okay, well, that's what the director said.
So, but at the same time, what does the 2 people being added to the budget do besides holding a place for the 2
It
salaries?
gets it closer to 3. Who knows? Listen, and I know you guys don't want this, but if a consultant comes back and says, hey, it should be, there should be 5, 6 EMS only, okay? But and I don't know how it doesn't come back saying this, but you don't need the same size fire department now. Okay, because the overwhelming majority of calls and the pressure of the fire department is EMS calls. So if you take that service away and put that into 4, 5, 6, whatever the number is, you're not gonna need that same fire size. So if the consultant comes back and it is, we need to get rid of a couple of fire EMT positions and have 5 or 6 EMS. The numbers having availability of some funding makes it easier to do that sooner.
I don't see that as
That's
a
all.
possibility of the consultant saying that reduce the fire departments. I think there's a bill in track right now requiring, it's mandated. But it's gonna require for fire departments to comply with the FPA 1710, which is for firefighters on fire engine at all times.
That bill's been there forever and ever.
Well,
Jeffrey, and Jeffrey, listen, so that's fine. So you're saying, take this money out. Okay, and if that is a solution, it's not gonna happen until 27.
So again, at the same time,
Okay.
I don't see the two people being the consultants answer.
Can I, for my finances, this is, my financing revenue had, it sounds like 2 would not work because of 3 platoons. Can we, and we can put this on our, follow-up from borough staff, ask Betty Jo what it would be in a tax increase to make it 3 and have, and whatever is going to be added by, whatever that is, for a 3rd salary, and put 3 in as the gap, just in case, so that there's money to act on whatever comes from the.
Listen, you can surely ask for that, but I think our trouble is we are right up against the appropriations cap. Okay, like I don't know that we have another firefighter at it. Okay, there's 2 different caps we deal with. Our levy cap, which we have lots of space there, right? That was the push from the schools. We could rate taxes $3 million. Okay, as long as we don't spend it on any borough stuff. But we're up against the 8 appropriations cap. So you can ask her about it. That's fine. Yeah, I'm just trying to leave a contingency in case in case there's some other solution that we can work with. That's all.
Have the consultant do their job. We approved today that we're gonna have this out. I'm looking forward to seeing who applies and how we can move forward with that. I also want to say that I appreciate in the monthly report from the fire department that I sent around to the governing body. We're now including concurrent fire incidents that are happening per month, as well as days per month where you have minimum staffing timeline. So thank you for including that. My concern is if we take out 3, maybe we'll use your tax money, maybe we won't. It doesn't land well with the taxpayer to say, what if we have to need 2?
What happens is the whole. Yeah.
To use it for something else.
Well, listen,
Budgets are tight. I don't think we could sell them.
well, you rely on the budget on making sure a sale happens, and you got a gap to create for next
I'm
year.
talking about the fire.
It's fallen to,
I'm
well, I
talking
mean,
about the fire.
well, you need to talk about the whole budget, okay?
Okay.
They're not in isolation.
Keep this on top.
Yeah, I am on topic, okay? What you're talking about is what it would do is fall to surplus,
Right.
which, and what you're taking out of it, that surplus needs to be rebuilt, big time, okay? It got hit last year because of what we did with what the schools were doing, and this year, still that increase with the schools, but this year for other reasons, it's getting hit, okay? So that, and listen, if you're gonna take it out, then it comes out, and if the report comes out, if there's something else we could do, it's like, it waits till 27.
Right, yeah.
That, I don't think that's a smart thing to do. I don't think that's what,
Well, we had a
Firefighters
solution,
want to do it.
that was $0, but unfortunately, we're in this new position. So I wanted to
it
hold.
wasn't $0. You lost $450,000, which is back in, okay?
I'm happy.
Don't rehash it.
I don't
Don't
want to.
rehash it.
I want to
Well,
follow the
you're
guidance.
bringing it up.
I want to follow the guidance of our fire department and what they.
That's fine. So you want it out?
I feel like I'm being put in a position here.
Oh,
My answer is, if we're gonna appropriate money, 3 is the only way that would work for this year.
All right, so let's look what that, see what that looks like to the average homeowner.
And look at the appropriation gap as you mentioned, and the.
Yeah, that's, it's gonna, right up against.
All right, well, let's think. See what that.
All right, anything else? Budget, okay, borough website, Lindsay.
Hey, everyone. I was asked to give a status report on the website currently. Specific to any updates that might be included in our current contract or any redesigns that are funded or scoped at this time. So based on our current contract, there are no specific website updates included in the current contract, nothing specific. There's nothing that is fully funded or scoped in that. The communications that we're getting are largely sales pitch emails. There's nothing that's truly no cost that's included in what we have right now. So based on that information and with the other things that our department is tackling this year, which we'll get to in a second, my recommendation would be to look at what priority issues are internally right now that we can kind of fix without, having to hire a contractor or do a full redesign. Whether that's ADA, navigation issues, outdated pages, and then look a little further into next year to see if we can scope in terms of labor and budget to include that. Because my other concern is labor for
Absolutely.
that.
Question, just because, I think the whole governing body is on copy of, again, some of those promotional, so there's, it said that you're due your, it's not even, there's no.
It does.
Even if it's there's nothing included in the contract for.
They have some increased capabilities that Revise has introduced, like an AI chatbot, a dashboard type feature, things like that, that they will add to your website. So we could look at some of those functionalities, but there's nothing like a redesign. There's nothing like an audit or anything like that, that we would be looking at a more full process. I do think if we're going to do that, we should look at a more full process. But again, labor wise, that's a huge lift.
Even the things that, the dashboard and things, is that also a labor intensive?
That we could look into this year. So that, like I said, my recommendation would be to identify some of our priority concerns about the current website. I know ADA accessibility is top of mind for me, getting everything, up to par this year for ADA accessibility. We also experienced some navigation issues, some archived pages that kind of come up when people search stuff that can make things confusing. So I think focusing on stuff like that to just make it a little more intuitive, get rid of some of the replicated information that's on there, streamlined, could be kind of a stopgap this year that our department could certainly undertake, and we would not incur a cost for that really. And then look into a more broader redesign if that's something that we're interested in. Because if we are, I think we should also look at potentially different. Yes, because I don't know how much we we love at the end of the day. There might be something a little easier to work with out there.
Can you send the governing body what, I know it doesn't sound like it's much, but there are some things that are included in our contract. Can you include what those are? So we can be okay, stopgap. Which of these do we think, if you have limited time to actually implement these and get our vendor the information, it's not like the vendor just does it like that. This requires a lot of legwork on your part, and we understand that. So just let us know what are the included.
Okay.
Even if the list is small, just to know what they are and how to focus the updates that we can get for what we've already paid for this year.
Okay.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions? No. Okay. All right. You're up again. Borough app.
Okay. So we paid for an app last year to be developed for the borough, Collingswood app. It did get put on the back burner a little bit just due to shifting responsibilities within the borough. We had certain employees leave, staffing. So we are circling back to get that off the ground right now. I was in contact with Webamax, which is the company that we contracted with for the development this week. So we currently have a list of assets that they need, which is pretty easy to gather together. I should be able to get all that over to them in the next week or so. It's just stuff like high-res logos, branding guidelines, images, some examples of apps that we like that we kind of want to see it modeled after. And then as soon as we get them those assets, they can give us a more solid tentative timeline. Honestly, I think it's going to move as fast as we move for the most part. So we are looking at bringing an intern in over the next couple of months. We have some good leads right now. a large part of their responsibility is gonna be gathering content for the app. We do have like an outline already set, so it's pretty ready to go. We just need someone to sit there and really get that together. So that is,
Is that fully paid for, Lindsay?
sorry,
Is that fully paid or?
it is.
Okay, great. So there's no outstanding contracts or RFPs or anything needed.
All
Okay,
done, just
perfect.
develop it.
Great.
And that will be focused largely on downtown and businesses and dining and stuff like that, but we'll also have a strong array of municipal features. So event calendars, information, parking, stuff that residents would find useful as well.
You pay for parking for them?
Parking, yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Mhm.
Should-
Can you pay for part of different app?
Oh, I don't know. We could find out.
To link it to park.
Yeah,
building.
link it to the parking app, that'll be great.
Mhm.
I never have orders.
I'll leave my Aldi,
Yeah.
I'll leave my Aldi order.
We could link it there.
Kids car, if I had it all in one place. I have too many apps, too many kids, too many people.
Okay, any other questions on the app?
No, that's fine. Thank
All
you.
right. Podcast,
Hi. So there,
we're gonna give Lindsay a break here in a second, I promise.
no, that's okay. There has been a concept brought up to the communications department. Commissioner Henderson Riley is interested in producing a borough podcast this year. What the concept would look like would be 8-ish, short, kind of bite-sized episodes that explain borough operations, highlight local businesses, kind of do a deep dive into certain subjects. We do have a proposed partner, which is someone local that we're already working with for videography and stuff like that. If we go forward with this, we would be looking at realizing this in the second half of 2026, mostly due to budgeting. That money will become available. And so there is a line item in the budget for that. Basically, going forward, we just need to clarify kind of like the logistics on how this will work. Topic planning, guest booking, script writing, hosting, promotion, editing approvals, stuff like that. So we're just kind of in the state now where we need to kind of define roles and responsibilities to support the concept going forward.
And we already have a contract with a market with.
We don't have a signed contract for the podcast. yet.
Right.
We have a signed contract with McCo and the Head and Film Company, correct?
Is there, right, the bid, is there a way to fold to add this into that
Potentially.
contract and just, come out of our
Yeah.
fixed budget, but just add, it, we already have an existing contract?
Yeah, they're working on our 2026 proposal for our contract now, so we should have the first draft of that by next week that they present to us, and then we can kind of make
And they know
tweaks.
to put this podcast.
I can let them know to include that. The other thing, just as a heads up, I did ask them to consider and get us a quote for whether or not we use it this year or not. I know we're all impressed by my setup here, but not everyone is impressed. We get a lot of complaints about the audio quality and video quality for these public meetings. So I do think we should prioritize, we invested in the Al. She's great. She's doing her best. It might not be the best solution to these larger rooms with larger meetings. So I did ask them to just work up a quote on what that would look like to have those streamed professionally with audio, just so we can kind of consider that for the future.
And I wanted to point out too, we had an email about this and Holly brought up, potentially maybe even including the high school pause TV.
Yeah.
Something like that, which I think is a really cool idea.
Emmy award winning.
Award-winning.
No, Emmy award.
Oh, Emmy
Yes.
award-winning, yes. And we did it in high school as well, which I think is really cool. So
I think.
So we can look into that.
If, the podcast tapes, then it's like, we find that we have more topics than we have sessions. Because I think if it takes and people are looking to them, then, having a partnership with local production,
And there are several surrounding municipalities that have these. I think it's an interesting time to try it out.
yeah, everyone really liked Jim's, YouTube updates during COVID. We had a public comment last week, 2 weeks ago, that during COVID is one of the only, he was one of the only faces that people really saw talking about what the heck was going on. So.
It's changed this life forever.
Right. Right. I mean, it was a really hard call.
Still doesn't go out.
So I just maybe seeing us and seeing the different experts and people who take care of specific things, talking about what the municipality does could be fun and helpful. All right, thanks. Alcohol. Here, this is, sure, so.
Serving at the bar? Or somebody-
We
I
did.
mean, you guys, what?
Concessionaire license for that one. All right, so, you guys have asked me to explore different options for potentially bringing, alcohol to town. I'm assuming that by that, means plenary retail consumption licenses. So there's different categories of licenses that are permitted by alcohol beverage, committee, ABC. And the most typical one is the retail consumption license, and that's what you see for bars and restaurants, and that allows consumption of alcohol on premises and limited availability to sell closed containers to leave the premises. Each municipality, is permitted to authorize a certain number of retail consumption licenses, and that number is based upon the amount of residents you have. So that number is 3,000 people. So based on your last census data, you're slightly over 1,400 or 14,000. So you're looking at for like,
Don't get that, like,
yeah, so they round up or down. Unfortunately, they do not round up. If you are also looking at possibly adding a distribution license, that population, that's also on a population cap basis. That one's higher, so that's 7,500. So you would only be looking to authorize one of those based on your last census data.
And I presume it's not an either or. It is an either or, it's not all inclusive. So if you were to get 4 retail consumption licenses, that means you can't also go get distribution.
Right, and they are specified to the certain type of license.
Got it.
Right, so
And distribution license, that's like,
that's like your liquor store, yeah. So those are your main options available. There are different types of licenses that are available on a smaller scale that don't necessarily go under your population cap numbers. So social affair permits or concessionaire licenses. Sometimes you'll see club licenses or your VFWs, things like that. A lot of those types of licenses are either tied to specific events or nonprofit organizations.
so social affairs will be used here in the Feds for the individual licenses at the, here in the community center.
When folks get it.
Yeah, when they get it, okay.
Yeah, and those are still typically tied to an entity that already has a license. So when you get a social affairs permit, it's usually tied to an entity that already has a retail consumption license. It doesn't have to be within the bounds of your municipality to do that, but
So
that's-
how does it operate here in the senior center?
Concessionaires is different. right?
oh yeah,
Concessionaires,
concessionaires do.
which they're concessionaires are a day up to a year,
Okay.
okay? So Scottish Rite, we have a
But
year.
we don't have concessionaires for this though.
No, but you can, a nonprofit, well, you,
So-
go ahead.
No, so, yeah, concessionaire's license,
Earn your
it's
money.
tied to either a nonprofit organization or, a governmental entity. So that's likely how you've been able to get them in the past. And again, they're typically tied to certain events. Those are for places of public assembly. So if you're gonna have,
Right, that's when they have,
show,
when they have, all the PTA have bingo here and, so does,
They get a single day.
Yeah.
They go to
one
the
day.
police department, get a single day.
yes, yeah, so.
And that's a social affair, or is it a single day, concession?
Concessionaire, what is it? Okay, social fair.
So social affair, yeah, and then the concessionaire is slightly different, but they're all pretty similar, but for those specific events are typically the social affairs, concessionaires. You'll see, if you even think about the word for it, stadiums, ballparks, theaters, and concessionaire that are tied to limited time area for specific events. But those are not subject to your population caps. So, you would typically see restaurants or your everyday business with those kind of, permits. And there are limits on the number of, concessionaire or social affair permits that you can get per year for an individual organization. I don't know those off the top of my head, but they do exist.
And walk us through what voting, because we are dry borough by ordinance. What did it,
So I took a look at your code. Your code does restrict, your zoning restricts the sale of alcohol. So with the exception, I believe, from permitted, the microbrewery in town. So that's an exception from this. But if you're looking to go the route of adding liquor licenses in town, you're looking at doing it essentially two ways. You can either go out to bid for it, and there will be procedural steps to, authorize, add an ordinance, which would allow you to sell alcohol within the boundaries of the borough, repealing any kind of prior restrictions. That could all be done, relatively easily.
is there a vote needed?
Well, there would be a vote for,
Referendum.
yeah, yeah, so that's option one, and that's what is most widely used. That is probably your safest bet forward and least likely to get challenged. So you either have a referendum, and then you have your referendum, assuming the referendum passes, then you go out to bid. And when I say two options, it's either go out to bid or your historical license. So you still are going for your referendum first, assuming it passes. Go out to either bid, which is what I'm saying about the least is the most used method of going forward. So you can put certain restrictions of location, hours of operation, those kind of things, in your ordinances for the sale of alcohol. You go out to bid, typically those will be your highest available bidder. You can still put some restrictions when you go out to bid, but ultimately that award is going to be your highest bidder.
But they can bid from anywhere, like, it's not restricted to just alcohol, so we could get like.
What kind of restrictions,
Right.
we put in? So you can restrict you can restrict where it is zoning wise, where you want to see it in town, you can restrict hours of operation. I know I've done one in the past where we have, as far as the restrictions, we incorporated it into the bid documents. So we wanted to see proposals where we had certain spaces that restricted purely bars. So somebody that you wanted to see get a license had to be a restaurant. So not just, you had to serve food, you had to put a percentage kind of requirement of tables and versus chairs versus bar seats. Those are the kind of things that you can incorporate into it. It should be like based on ownership or anything like that. So those are the kind of things for the bid side. There's also another option, and the benefit with the bid is when I reference the highest bidder, the borough can set a floor of, we want at least 100,000. It's probably going to be more than that for a liquor license. And people can bid on that liquor license, and it's the highest bidder that meets your qualifications in the bid. So you could have somebody that bids the floor. You could have somebody that bids 5 times that now because they really, really want it. Benefit of that is you do get a surplus to the borough for that amount of money. Another option you can look at, which is a more historical method of awarding these licenses, that doesn't necessarily come with that cash influx. And that is more of an application review done at a public meeting, of potential, applicants in the borough. You can. That is not widely used. If you want to go that route, my suggestion is you still establish mechanisms to make sure the process is fair across the board, because that kind of review and award is much higher likelihood to challenged on a arbitrary kind of basis. So adding objective standards that certain people have to meet during your review would probably be the best way to go with that. Things that you can look at for that is business experience, location,
Years of operation.
yeah, those are the kind of things you can build into that. But they have different notice procedures and how you do everything. But your best bet would be to do a lot of notice to get potential bidders to apply.
And now is this also has to be one or the other? There is no two of them can go out for bid and two of them.
No, there's nothing restricting you
So
to.
we could bid out, for example, one, and then the other three, we have the historical method
Yes.
where we have
Yeah.
applications. Okay, all right, and that's just a decision by the governing body. Would that be in the referendum to say how they're being?
No, the referendum is to allow, yeah,
But if you review and assign with historical method, you're not collecting the same.
Can't charge, can't charge.
But
And you think who's gonna get it, can't charge.
But you can't charge for two of them, for example, and you could charge for the other two,
Whichever one you're gonna pick and select, you can't charge for that.
for that one.
yeah, so
Okay.
the application review, you're not getting
You don't get the money.
money for the borough, for the bidding method, you're looking at probably a pretty high bid.
But it's wider market.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's a wider of the market, but, as it would stay high, it would have to be located in the borough based upon any zoning requirements that, will be put forward of location wise where it would be.
Thank you for that. That
Yeah.
was so,
And then every year after that, Holly would probably have a little more duty because they would have, yearly, license requirements that would go through the clerk's office. The borough would collect a nominal license fee renewal. I think that's the minimum is $250 and the maximum is $2,500. It's not gonna tip the scales either way, but
and the referendum is just simple yes, no, like you want to repeal the existing.
1935.
You specify what it is.
You have,
Yeah.
You have to say, it's like this many licenses, like Heights did one, right? It's this many licenses, that will be these restrictions, this is what will be, so that will.
Yeah, it would
Has to
be,
part of it.
yeah.
got specifics.
so you specify whether there's 4 retail consumption licenses or 2 distribution licenses, or that would go, right? That's what.
And any sort of notice for a referendum, ballot question, I would prepare.
Yeah.
Long item.
Yeah.
Know what they're doing.
Yards, yes.
All right,
That's all, thank you.
Status committee. So we are, the committees that we talked about last month, the master plan steering committee and then the night park steering committee. We will have more information about those coming out in the town prior. I'll share more information at the commissioners meeting as well, just like a broad outline of, duties to expect for the master plan, duties to expect, backgrounds that might fit, time, how much of your time is expected and this sort of thing. But that would be in the town crier with like an actual old school, and you can cut out an application. There'll also be a link to a Google form, so you can put in your information and let us know what level of involvement you would like to have. I'll let Jim update on that. I'm not sure what the details are on the night part.
No, we do the same thing. I contacted Lindsay, I know she was down for the count, to get to see what,
So another.
was getting done with all, just to follow up and something similar.
Great, so you'll see that in the town crier for both committees. And yeah, that's the update there. Oh,
Shade tree.
Shade tree. we. Omission by error, we need to talk about shade trees real quick. The Shade Tree Commission came forward with an update to the tree removal application. And our zoning officer has diligently worked to kind of marry the current one as well as the, proposed new, and she's gonna walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so the top one is the current one. I believe I have them all marked for you in your little packet. The one that has kind of a highlighted shading, that's the shade tree. And then I did a monster mash of the two, just adding the Shade Tree Commission would like to increase the replacement fees for the trees. And so that would need to be done via the ordinance, because the ordinance has a certain structure for the certain DBH of a certain size. It's a required fee if you're not gonna replace it yourself on the lot. So they would like those increased, and those are noted in both their form and the combined form.
Richard, can I ask, this is the state statute that says.
Yes.
If you take a tree out of your backyard.
Yes,
You have to either replace it in your backyard
correct.
or pay a fee.
Or pay a fee, and then the fee, we then plant a tree somewhere else in
So
town.
what's the fee now?
So the
And
fee
what is
now,
that increase?
right, so the fee now is for a DBH of 6 inches to 12.9 is 100.
That's the diameter.
Yeah, yeah, diameter at breast height, which is about 4.5 feet tall. So
So it's from 100 to 3,
So there's
100 to 3.
4 categories, because.
so they all triple it?
Yeah, it's 100 to 300, 200 to 600, 300 to 900, 500 to 1200 for the large.
Yes, and the application fees are the same as we currently have in the
Somewhere.
Yeah, these are the recommendations.
yeah, these are the shade tree recommendations. I was just giving you
Gotcha.
it's up to you all to decide what if there are increases and what they are. I did take some of the information from the shade tree recommendation and added it to our form. There were some other things that I did not, because I don't believe it has anything to do with the ordinance and really not part of the. I don't think it should be brought in to whether or not it's approved. I just think it's more opinion based than actually, being objective. There's also some other concerns that the shade tree had that were brought to Mayor Solano Ward about their involvement in the shade tree. So the tree removal process. So those can be discussed. But yeah, their main concern that I see is that they would like the replacement value to be higher.
Did they also have different measurements? I'm looking at it real quick, like, there's some stuff that's highlighted. Like, they're just highlighted on it, so.
I'm not, so yeah, they're highlighted, the ours are currently different per ordinance, so it would need to change as well.
Okay, that's just a different a measurement of a different part of the tree. Yeah, I get it.
So they're give the circumference as well as the
That's
DBH,
got it.
because a lot of people will come to me with the circumference, because it's very difficult to come up with your diameter if your tree is still standing.
Yeah.
So they're giving the math for the circumference, which then can be calculated. I can take their circumference and calculate it to the diameter for them, but the shade tree is just adding that in there so that the folks can understand.
But these categories come from the state.
Yes.
The original state.
They're from the ordinance that we have, yes.
Yeah, and our ordinance is based on.
Yes. Mhm.
Gretchen, how long has this been on the books? It's only like a year or so.
So we've done 24 was mid, 25 was a whole year.
And how many in 25? How many?
So in 25, I can tell you that, I have these two.
tree.
You could swim.
Yeah.
Build one of those trees,
I-
spread out the trees.
I'm bored of this, make sure we get the tree.
Maybe you're counting them?
Sorry, I know.
That's all I wanted to know, how many. 50
Let me go.
50 people really are coming in and applying to take the trees and put it back.
Yes,
Well, there's also categories that are exempt, so people may think that.
Right,
They
so-
just said dead or, yeah, like a junk tree.
right, and that is noted. That is noted here, whether or not they had to pay the fee, whether it was a hazard tree or not. Because then you're exempt, if it's a hazard tree, or if it is a weed tree of a certain variety. Those may, because it's invasive, those can be taken down without having to pay the application fee or replacement fee, because they shouldn't be there anyway, and they need to go. And you're allowed, I believe it's up to five trees down in 2 years, or maybe even 5 years. We've only been doing it for a year, but I am tracking how many trees come down so that if a same address comes up, I can then track how many trees they've had down in a certain amount of time. Ultimately, you know, the state and we want to keep as many trees as possible because it helps with our excess, you know, stormwater issues. Yes, it does. But we also are aware that, you know, you may have to take down a tree in order to, you know, have, you know, something added to your property, but we just have to go through that and keep an eye on things.
Okay, thank you.
So you can all look over those and then let me know what you're gonna do, and then we can move forward.
Appreciate that. Nothing else on our agenda. So, I make a motion, I make a motion to adjourn. Second. All right, thank you all so much for coming out, spending your afternoon with us.